It's show off time again, and it is a time for me to show off a book in this particular little video. What we have here is a 2019 printed edition, Stephen King at the Movies. Now, it does claim to be a complete history of the film and television adaptations from the Master of Horror. Master of Horror being Stephen King, this book being written by Ian Nathan, movie journalist and movie fan. Now, I've had this book in my collection for quite a while. It's published by Palazzo, and the cost was £25 in the UK, dollar price $35. Probably pick it up a little bit cheaper now because it has been out a few years. Now, the thing that interested me was that it claims to be a complete history of the Stephen King adaptations. Now, I've seen a lot of Stephen King stuff over the years. I haven't seen it all, but I think I've seen more than I haven't seen. And I was curious, and I'm looking at the size of this book, and we'll just see what the page count in fact is. It's 222 pages is this book. And I'm like, is it a complete history? Does it have everything in it? Now, I picked some random titles out. I'm like, surely it can't have like the Mangler, and it does have the Mangler. Surely it can't have the Night Flyer. It has the Night Flyer. I haven't gone looking for anything in this book that I have not found. So so far, it does seem to be a complete history of Stephen King adaptations. Now, bearing in mind this is now 6 years old, or at least 5 years old, coming up on 6. So there are a few like The Monkey and Welcome to Derry. They're obviously not going to be in this book, but it does cover everything up until, I believe it's Dr. Sleep, which I think is the last one. So we have It Chapter 2 and yes, Dr. Sleep we get, and it does mention forthcoming King. So it goes into things like the Boogeyman and the Firestarter remake and stuff like that. So obviously I'm going to go through this book a little bit. I'm not going to go through every single page because that would be not fair to Palazzo or Ian Nathan if you get to see the whole book in a video. But this will give you an overview as to what you're going to get actually in this book. Now, it is divided up into several chapters. I will say that the films and the shows it goes through are in date order. So even though you've got chapters, it will start with Carrie, I believe, will be the first ones. But it's divided up into these following chapters: Auteurs and Mind Games, Monsters and Children, Angels and Devils, Dreams and Nightmares, and Number One Fans. And then the Final Reckoning, which is like the closing out one. So what we get here, we get an introduction about King from author Ian Nathan. We get some photographs of the young King there. And then we are into the first chapter. Let's say I'm not going to go through the whole book, so don't think you can just screenshot this or pause it and read the entire book on this video. I'm just going to give you an overview of how the book is set out. So, as predicted, yes, Carrie is the first one, 1976. So we get a good old bit of reading about Carrie, how it came to be a film, and so on. So we're getting like maybe 3, 4, 5 pages of text on Carrie. And again, Salem's Lot. Salem's Lot. Salem's Lot doesn't get as many pages, but we get 2 pages. Then we're into the movie that Stephen King isn't a huge fan of, but is a really good movie in itself, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. And the reason I'm flicking through some of these pages is because Creep Show there is, it's not a case of this book isn't going to go through all of King's adaptations in this sort of format. You're not going to get 2 or 3 pages on each film. There we go. So what we do, for example, here, down the sidebar of some of the pages, it will go into all the sequels. So it goes up to Children of the Corn Runaway, 2018, Children of the Corn Genesis, 2011, and so on. So they're not all given this treatment. A lot of the movies and TV shows and adaptations and franchises are given this sort of sidebar treatment here. I will just find another one. We go into Monsters and Children, which has things like Maximum Overdrive, Stand By Me, And Creepshow 2, Return to Salem's Lot, so it does covering some of the sequels, some of the direct-to-video sequels. The Running Man, which we know is getting a remake, or an update, or whatever you want to call it. Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, Misery. And we also get a chapter here, so this is Golden Years it covers. We get a little blurb of Unmade King, which will talk about things like night shift and training exercise day by shotgunners. So it's going into things that haven't quite made it. Then we get the Lawnmower Man saga, which Lawnmower Man 1, Lawnmower Man 2, starring the wonderful Matt Frewer in that. So it does, in fact, go through pretty much tons of King. I went looking for the Mangler. I found the Mangler there. Sometimes they come back, is covered in here. The Night Flyer. Night Flyer, surprisingly enough, is given a full couple of pages there. Apt Pupil, that is a film that I'm just not a fan of. I find it a real struggle to watch Apt Pupil because I didn't care for either of the characters, and so I didn't really care what they did to each other. So that kind of annoyed me. It covers the sequels to things, the Rage 2, Carrie 2, which is, the Rage, Carrie 2. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's okay. Green Mile, of course, gets some loving treatment. And then we're into things like Firestarter 2 Rekindled, Dead Zone TV show, which is a show I do have on DVD, but I've not finished watching yet. So we've got all of these. It is a really good book. I'm glad to see Riding the Bullet by Mick Garris is in here. Very impressed with that. Salem's Lot, Desperation, Mick Garris again. Mick has obviously worked with Stephen quite a few times. And we got all the TV shows, Nightmares and Dreamscapes, and stuff like that. Haven, which is something I haven't seen. I haven't watched Haven, so I do need to investigate that one. But it's a really good, are you going to learn tons from this book? If you are a devout King fan already, maybe not. But if you want to sort of revitalize somebody's interest in King, or you want to give them this book and go, here you go, there is now because if you look at the back, let's have a look. There's a nice little game to play, which the final reckoning here, Ian has tried to rank all of these 84 Stephen King adaptations. Pretty sure there's been more than 84 now. So you could probably go through and score them all off as you've watched them. So this is a perfect book to give to somebody who you may think, do you know what, they need a movie project. They need a TV project. And they could go through all these Stephen King things, and once they've seen them, tick them off. Maybe do your own ranking. I don't know. So is this a good book? Yes, it is a good book. Would I pay £25 for it? Well, I did pay £25 for it, so that question is kind of null and void. Is it the most comprehensive book about Stephen King ever written? I don't know. It seems, to me, it works better as a coffee book table. You put it there, people come around, they flick through, and you're like, I've not seen The Stand in a while, I'll watch The Stand. So it is a good book. I think Ian Nathan's done a great job. I think it is a good revisit to King and the movies. And so, yes, I would give it my 2 thumbs up. Have you seen this book? From what you've seen, is it a book you're going to go out and buy? Let me know in comments.